doesn't sound all that exciting, but when you then consider that it helped launch a career of the magnitude that it did, it does become very special indeed. In the days when Formula Ford 1600 racing was still filling enormous grids at the Formula Ford Festival, and there were so many regional championships. But then from the more recent days of Formula One, you have the Brawn going down towards the bottom of the hill, the car that Jenson Button took to a World Championship title, and Red Bull here as well. We've got cars from, as I say, the 1950s as part of the Grand Prix greats, but also pretty much up to the present day. You've also got more F1 machinery which are on static display in the paddock as well, and potted histories of all the cars available in the programme. If you've not yet bought a copy, I would urge you so to do, because in the programme you've got not only details of the majority of the entrants this weekend, apart from one or two latecomers to the ball, but also a separate magazine with lots of stories of the weekend, plus also you get your free radio, your earwig radio, so you can keep up to date with what's going on. So all the marshals down at the start receive the cars, they turn them around, they then get them in order. You see the Toyota there making its way down towards the bottom of the hill, ready for its run. This car that is owned by Harold Fuchs, the Toyota TF108 that Timo Glock took second place with in Hungary back in 2008. Toyota came to Formula One with a very, very good brains trust, with certainly a good budget, but it never, Jack, quite clicked, did it?
No, it didn't, and they had a couple of, I think they had a pole position with Jarno Trulli, but I think they might have locked out the front row actually in Bahrain 2009, but never ended up taking the Grand Prix victory. Came in 2002, hired Alan McNish and Mika Salo, and McNish, the best thing he did all year was have a massive crash at 130R at Suzuka. Well, actually that was the worst thing he did, because they then changed 130R, so we have Alan McNish to blame for that. And yeah, and from then on it never really progressed. But the technology was so advanced, I don't know right now, but certainly until recent years, that facility that they built in Cologne was still being used for all sorts of operations. Some Formula One teams were still going there and renting out the wind tunnel and using elements of that. So the infrastructure they had was great, but it never quite came together. I suppose in a similar way to Honda when they returned to Formula One in the sort of mid-2000s. But yes, it's great to have that Harold Fuchs car out. Also the 2008 Toro Rosso, with which Sebastian Vettel won his first Grand Prix. Now, how do I phrase that? We had this discussion last night. He didn't win his first Grand Prix. He won a Grand Prix for the first time.
He took his maiden victory.
Took his maiden victory.
Yes, is a cliche. Yes.
At Monza in 2008 in that rainy qualifying session. So there's some really, really good stuff out there. Oh, the 1988 McLaren. I've never seen that drive. The all-conquering MP44 from 1988.
I remember getting very wet seeing it at Silverstone that year, because it was
it a lot too.
Very soggy Grand Prix. I wasn't getting wet that way. Thanks. Here comes the bus. Get under it, Addison. But it was a very, very wet British Grand Prix, and Senna stayed ahead of the Williams Judd of Nigel Mansell in one of his amazing drives. You know, not a wheel wrong in appalling conditions. The other car that I know it didn't have a great deal of success, but for me just has great character, is the Ligier, the JS11 of Matteo Ferra-Azza, the young Italian former Formula Renault racer. And you know, again, that was a car that was quick. It did have some success, perhaps not as much as Guy Ligier anticipated, but put Didier Pironi in that car and watch him go for pole position around Brands Hatch in 1980. It was something special, that car.
Yeah, an amazing collection of Grand Prix greats, and from the Monaco selection as well that we were talking about a moment ago. We've got Jackie Stewart's World Championship winning cars being driven up. Certainly two of them by Mark and Paul. I'm not sure who's in the third one today. We'll find out in a couple of moments' time when they go up. You've got BRMs going up. Williams Renault from 1997 as well. The World Championship winning car for Jacques Villeneuve. And I think the 97 Ferrari is due to be out as well in the Schumacher demonstration. So, I mean, I'd like to see them run those two together. That would be quite cool. But they're in different classes, but that would be a nice little touch.
You've also got a McLaren M23, which was an Emerson Fittipaldi type championship winning car in 1974, and then it was tweaked and evolved a little for James Hunt to win in 76. That car is here. It's a static display car, in fairness. McLaren International has brought it, and that's part of the static display, but there's an awful lot to look forward to. And of course, we have lots of earlier cars too, going back to, 1931, Lucas Huni's Bugatti from our Grand Prix Greats section. Formula One teams, again, more static displays because Williams Heritage has a very, very large area in the paddock. McLaren have brought one of this year's cars. We've also got the 2012 Renault that Max Futrell and Daniel Ricciardo and Guan Yu Zhou will be driving over the course of the weekend. Marc Hennet, who's a regular in the Ferrari classic cars, he is also going to be driving this weekend. Now, they will be on the hill very shortly, but coming up in the next few minutes will be our air display of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Arrows.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Squadron Leader Adam Collins. I am Red 10, the supervisor with the Royal Air Force Aerobatics team, the Red Arrows. Well, it's my privilege to talk to you this morning. I'm going to give you some background on the team. I'm going to talk you through the display and let you hear some of Red One's radio transmissions. Well, the jets are airborne. They are almost here. Let's hear it for the 2019 Red Arrows! The jets arrive in big battle formation, trailing the red, white and blue patriotic smoke. Red One pulling them up to the vertical and moving into short diamond. Leading the team is Red One Squadron Leader Martin Pert. Martin is a former Harrier and Typhoon pilot. He's previously instructed on the Hawk and is in his second year as the team leader of the Red Arrows. Red One banking the formation around to the right in short diamond. On the right of Red One is one of our new pilots for 2019. It's Red 2 Flight Lieutenant Damo Green. Damo is a former Hawk pilot and he joins the team from the Typhoon Force. Well, there are several anniversaries that we're marking in the display this year, one of which is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landings. As the jets come back towards us from the right-hand side, they're in Apollo, ready for the Apollo roll. Upside down at 2,500 feet into the Apollo roll. On the right-hand side of Apollo is another new pilot for 2019. It's Red 4 Flight Lieutenant Gregor Ogston. Gregor has previously instructed on the Hawk T2 and has flown the Typhoon prior to joining the Red Arrows. 2019 signifies several anniversaries, another one of which is the first flight of Concorde. Concorde, of course, an amazing feat of Anglo-French engineering combined with a beautiful design. Red One calling the aircraft into Concorde. The white smoke comes on at 4 and 5, banking the aircraft around to the left. They will face up Reds 8 and 9, looking like the engines underneath the Concorde as it comes towards us. Red One speaking on the radio with a very metronomic cadence. The pilots are reacting to his voice and the timing of his commands rather than the movement of his aircraft, and that's what keeps the display shapes straight and symmetrical. There are, of course, several other anniversaries being celebrated this year, the 75th anniversary of D-Day being the most notable. Here they come, Red One pulling to the vertical in Concorde for the Concorde Loop. As the jets approach the vertical, Red One has called the aircraft into Signet, changing formation at 5,000 feet as they apex over the loop. Another anniversary being celebrated this year is the 100th anniversary of Bentley. Bentley, of course, having produced the BR1 engine, which was used in the Sopwith Camel to upgrade its performance back in World War I.
Bank now.
As Signet moves off in front of us, the smoke goes off. Red 1 about to call the aircraft into one of our most technically difficult formations. All the aircraft moving forwards, forming a line abreast line of 6 aircraft, with Red 6 and 7 tucked in behind in Phoenix. On the left of Phoenix is Red 3 Squadron Leader Mike Bowden. Mike has previously served for 4 years on the team. He's flown the Harrier and the Tornado and instructed on the Hawk, and he's back in the team for 2019 whilst Flight Lieutenant David Simmons recovers from a knee injury. So in from the left, the coloured smoke is about to come on for Phoenix. As Phoenix rolls out, the coloured smoke about to come off. Red 1 will bank the formation around to the right before representing another aircraft from history. This time, it's time for the Lancaster. The Lancaster, of course, most famous for its valuable contribution to World War II. But as we remember the D-Day anniversary, we remember it was also used as a decoy tactic to take enemy attention away from the Normandy landings. As Lancaster comes towards us, on the left wingtip is Red 5, that's Squadron Leader Steve Morris. Steve has formerly flown the Harrier and the Tornado. He's been on the team before and rejoins us in 2019, having been a Hawk instructor at RAF Valley. In from the right-hand side, the smoke is about to come on. The jets will pull up for the Lancaster roll. Upside down at 2,500 feet, the white smoke streaming from Lancaster. As Lancaster moves off to our left-hand side, our next maneuver is in remembrance of another aircraft that has recently retired from RAF service, which many of us on the team have flown. This aircraft has seen back-to-back service on operations on the front line, including many NATO operations. NATO celebrating its 70th anniversary this year. Well, this formation is one of the favourites with photographers and spectators alike. Reds 8 and 9 have moved to the back, ready for Tornado. Red 1 about to call the air brakes out, about to call the smoke on. Reds 8 and 9 will then be called to roll. Aboard calls Red 9 as Reds 8 and 9 with the coloured smoke roll around the rest of the formation. Red 1 about to bank the aircraft to the left, changing smoke colour as they go. This is Tornado. Well, the end of Tornado means that we are approaching the second half of our display. So far, we've seen all 9 aircraft in big formation shapes, aerobating across the beautiful skies here at Goodwood. Well, in the second half, we're about to step up the tempo. We're about to knock it up a gear as we get ready for Red 1 splitting the formation into two sections. The front section of 5, nicknamed Enid after Enid Blyton's famous 5. The rear section of 4 also splitting down to 2 for the synchro pair. As the aircraft complete their left-hand turn back in Phoenix formation, the nose lights will come on towards us. It's time for the first big split of the display. We'll have 7 aircraft pulling to the vertical and the synchro pair staying low. Get those cameras ready, get those lenses zoomed out. It is time for the palm split. And pulling up calls Red 1, 7 aircraft pulling to the vertical, Red 6 and 7 staying low. As 7 aircraft form the palm tree, keep your eyes on Red 6 and 7 with the coloured smoke staying low. They're about to pitch up, back towards each other for the first opposition pass of the display. On our right, trailing smoke is Red 6. On the left is Red 7. Red 6 is Flight Lieutenant Toby Keeley. Toby is a former Tornado pilot and Hawk instructor. He's on his 3rd and final year with the team and would like to say hello to his mum, Carolyn. In from the right are 6 and 8. In from the left, 7 and 9. A closing speed of over 700 miles an hour, passing 100 feet apart for the Jippo Pass. As Reds 8 and 9 pull to the vertical, Red 6 and 7 staying low, pulling hard towards each other. The aircraft pulling 6 to 7G, the pilots fighting the G-forces. They'll roll out back towards us before reversing and crossing 100 feet apart in the Cyclone. Red 6 and 7 continue the hard pull towards each other, the white smoke on. They'll cross once more, sniffing the smoke in the slingshot. In from the left-hand side now comes Red 9 with the smoke on. Banking to the left, whilst Enid come in from our right, forming an inverted V. Red 9's going to fly straight down the middle in the Goose.
Little bit right. Now.
Pulling up to the vertical, Red 9 is Flight Lieutenant Dan Lowes. Dan is a former Typhoon pilot and weapons instructor. He's on his 3rd and final year with the team, and he'd like to say hello to Mum, Dad, Meg and Matt. As Enid off to our left-hand side, switch the coloured smoke to white. They make way for the next manoeuvre. Now let's look out straight ahead. We're looking for the nose lights of Red 6 and 7. They're pulling up to the vertical now, which means one thing, it is time for the heart. Red 6 and 7 pulling to the vertical over the top. Red smoke standing out beautifully against the white sky. In from the top right comes Red 8, the red smoke on now, spearing the heart. And Red 6 Toby would like to dedicate this heart to his mum. Red 8 spearing the heart today is Flight Lieutenant Chris Lyndon Smith. Chris has formerly flown the Tornado, the Hawk, and he's flown in the most number of positions in history on the Red Arrows. Now once more in again from the left and the right. Synchro have the white smoke on. They're going to cross 3 times. 100 feet apart, pulling 7G in a tight circle. Red 6 rolling inverted, about to cross with Red 7 in the vice versa. The smoke turns off at Red 6 and 7 as we look out to the left-hand side. It's time for another big maneuvers. Get those cameras ready. The other aircraft about to pull up.
I'm pulling up.
Red 1 leading the other 7 aircraft, pulling up to the vertical. They're about to roll around to the right before pulling over the top in the vertical brake.
Bank now.
Brake, brake, go, calls Red 1 in the vertical brake. As the 7 aircraft turn their smoke off, it's time to look out to the left and right once more for the synchro pair. Closing at over 700 miles an hour, passing 100 feet apart. 6 and 7 are about to pull hard in towards each other, changing smoke color as they go in the carousel. The colored smoke comes on, Red 6 and 7 pulling hard in the turn. As they cross at the back, the smoke color will change, leaving a red and blue half of the circle.
I think it was to get 50 or 60 seconds quick spin up the hill and then 4 brandies sticker tires.
Red 6 and 7 passing the third time, the smoke going off as they make way for the next maneuver. Looking out to our right-hand side now, Red 1 leading Enid in. The white smoke is on, the aircraft pulling up. About to barrel roll twice in a snake-like shape across the sky in the Python. Red 1 leading Python into the second roll with the colored smoke on now as they move off to our left-hand side. The smoke about to change to white as Red 1 pulls up for the second Python roll. Each of our aircraft is capable of 5 minutes of white smoke, 1 minute of red and 1 minute of blue, all operated by buttons on the control stick. And Red 1 choreographs the smoke to ensure the pilots don't run out during the display. As the white smoke turns off to our left-hand side, it's time to look back out to the right as the remaining 4 aircraft come in from our right-hand side. Red 6 and 7 about to roll inverted. Reds 8 and 9 will roll around their smoke in the corkscrew.
8 and 9, roll it forward.
Aboard calls Red 9. Reds 8 and 9 rolling around 6 and 7. Complete calls number 9. Red 6 leading his section off to our left-hand side, ready to make way for Enid. Enid about to conduct simultaneous rolls from the inside of the formation to the outside, changing smoke color as they go. It's time for the rollbacks.
Enid, watch it. Go. 2 and 3, roll. Go.
2 and 3 roll go calls Red 1, the signal for 2 and 3 to roll.
Clear. Go.
Clear go, the signal for 4 and 5 to roll. Complete calls red 5 as the rollbacks finish off to our right-hand side. It's time to look straight back out again. The remaining 4 aircraft with the white smoke on. 8 and 9 now rolling around 6 and 7. 6 and 7 about to roll themselves before the Jippo break. Red 6 and 7 once more staying low from the break as they prepare for the last of their opposition maneuvers. As they pull up with the white smoke on, we've got Red 7 on the left. Red 7 is Flight Lieutenant John Bond. John is a former Tucano pilot. He instructed on the aircraft and displayed it in 2012 before moving to the Typhoon Force. He is in his 2nd year on the team and will take over as the synchro leader next year. In from the left and right, about to barrel roll towards each other, it's the double rolls. As 6 and 7 complete their double rolls, it's time to look straight out. Just past where 6 and 7 crossed, it's time for the display finale. Red 1 about to put the smoke on, ready for the Vixen break. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Red Arrows!
So, as ever, brilliant display from the Red Arrows. While that has been going on in the sky, we've had Formula 1 cars, we've had Grand Prix greats, and the Michael Schumacher celebration on the hill. Jackie, it's hard to know where to look at the moment, but there is some awesome machinery bringing us pretty much up to date currently on the hill.
Yes, absolutely. It's been fantastic, hasn't it? From early Grand Prix cars, the Bugattis, right up to this Red Bull that we're seeing out there on the circuit now, and that is the RB8 from 2012. So it's this was before the turbo hybrid engine era of Formula 1. So it's noisy.
It sounds proper, and Patrick Friesacher, who has been given driving duties this weekend, knows how to play to the gallery. He's a regular at Goodwood. He knows where to do donuts, he knows how to do them, and he knows where to push and how to push, and he is a real crowd pleaser. And yes, this takes you back to an era where Formula 1 cars made a proper noise.
Well, 2012 was a vintage season of modern Formula 1, wasn't it? Going right down to the wire, Fernando Alonso against Sebastian Vettel in that Red Bull. The spin for Vettel at the final corner in Sao Paulo, on the first lap in Sao Paulo at the final race of the season. And yeah, that 2012 was a very, very strong year. That was the year of the 7 winners from the first 7 races or something like that, wasn't it? And here's Karun Chandok. And he is out in one of the Williams Heritage cars.
It's the Brabham BT26A that Frank Williams ran for Piers Courage, his flatmate. And it was a car that Piers drove, having had a very successful year in Formula 2. They got together, they bought this Brabham for 1969. They did get 2 second-place finishes, but it wasn't until Frank's own eponymous car was 1979 that he had the first win. Nico Hülkenberg drives the Renault, and this again brings us closer to today's machinery.
Yeah, I think actually today this is Stu driving the car, having seen him down in the paddock, and that not being Nico Hülkenberg's helmet, but hopefully we'll have Nico here at some point over the course of the weekend. This is the E20, so this is also another car from 2012 in which, I'm committing here, Kimi Räikkönen won the opening race of the season, or was that 2013?
Certainly a Raikkonen car, wasn't it? Wasn't Romain Grosjean any other? But yes, was that the car with the famous "I know what I'm doing"?
Yes, I think it could have been.
Yes.
Maybe he won the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Maybe I'll do some research.
As Guan Yu Zhou drives to the top of the hill, but in its very Renault colours, the works colours. Renault, of course, here also with cars from its past. You've seen the 1979 turbo car that René Arnoux and Jean-Pierre Jabouille are driving. And Guan Yu Zhou gives it another squirt of power on his way up towards the timing line.
The Lotus didn't win a race. Yes, it did in Abu Dhabi, so that was the one with Kimi Raikkonen towards the end of the season.
The Red Arrows will make their final fly past, a chance to say goodbye for today to the Red Arrows after that exceptional display. On the hill at the moment, you've got Lee Mole driving the Lotus 79, the car that Mario Andretti took to the 1978 Formula One World Championship. Ronnie Peterson also drove, and then after his tragic death, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, I think it was, wasn't it, brought in at the end of the season. That was a game changer, even though its winning streak was rather interrupted that year by another game changer for one event, which was the Brabham fan car. But apart from that, nobody could hold a candle to the ground effect Lotus.
Yeah, there is the Lotus. Cosworth 79 making its way up the hill, and that we talk a lot about iconic liveries at Goodwood, don't we? But that is one of them. That is up there, and it's one that doesn't transfer. You know, you see Martini liveries on a lot of different cars. Okay, you know, you're associated with some more than others, but it's a black and gold Lotus. That's it.
Do you know there are people on the other side of the world that would take issue with that?
Oh, go on. Oh, really?
John Player Special BMWs in Australian touring car racing. 635i BMWs in JPS colours, yeah.
Really?
1984, 85, that era.
So you think an Australian touring car is more iconic than a Lotus 79?
I just like a good argument.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I agree with you.
This is cool. 1997, Williams, that Jacques Villeneuve used to win the World Championship, FW19, 3-litre V10 engine, and this was the one that collided with Michael Schumacher at Jerez at the end of the season. Collided with Michael Schumacher is probably not the appropriate phraseology, but it's Theo Zorbas at the wheel, and the helmet's beautiful.
Yeah,
it really
isn't it?
Joins in with
Fits
the car.
in with the livery.
Yeah. So yeah, this was Jacques Villeneuve's 1997 machine, which Williams have only recently restored and got up and running again.
And like all subsequent from 1994 onwards Williams, there'll be a little Senna motif on the nose as up the hill it comes. But yes, this car will also during the weekend have Johnny Herbert driving it at some point, and immortalised really, as Jack said, with that infamous coming together in 1997. Michael Schumacher going for the race lead contact and Jacques Villeneuve surviving. Now, Mercedes having an absolutely stellar season currently in Formula One.
Esteban Ocon at the wheel then, the reserve driver now for the Mercedes team, and absolutely fantastic to see this F1 W08 make its way around. This is the 2017 Mercedes Formula One car with which Lewis Hamilton claimed his 4th Formula One World Championship title with a couple of rounds to spare. Here he comes now. Up the hill, and I think we're going to get some donuts here from Ocon. Fantastic stuff. This, of course, is a hybrid car, and as opposed to most of the non-hybrids we've seen, I think this is the only hybrid we're having out there, actually, from the really modern era of Formula One. But you'll notice it's still got quite a bit of punch, actually, these days. I remember a couple of years ago, the 2014 Mercedes came, I think with Nico Rosberg at the wheel, and it didn't sound that great, but now they're getting a bit better.
12 race wins that season for the car, a 4th title for Lewis Hamilton. Now the Brawn 10 years ago, and Jenson Button's World Championship success. Rubens Barrichello and Anthony Davidson due to share the car over the weekend, but out of the ashes of Honda grew Brawn with all the development that had been going on the previous year, and Ross took the gamble, bought the remnants of the team, and bang, was straight on the money.
Anthony Davidson is at the wheel, and he was the test driver for Honda the previous year, so he would have had a certain amount of input in this car as well. Absolutely brilliant to see this Brawn out there and moving. I believe this was Rubens Barrichello's car from the final couple of races that year. You can see the Banco de Brazil sponsorship, which only came on board towards the end of the season, because at the start of the year it was pretty much plain white, because
money was tight all year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Even though the team survived, it was with fewer people than had been working under the Honda days, but they got through the season, and the advantage, perhaps it's fair to say, ebbed away. Others caught up, but Jensen was able to maintain that gap in the championship, keep banking points, get over the line to take the title.
Absolutely. The last race win they took that year was at Monza with a 1-2 for Barrichello and Button. For the rest of the year, it was Vettel that looked the strongest, but they managed to hold on, take the victory, and what a remarkable out of the ashes story that was.
Absolutely right. So we're nearly at the end of our Formula One Schumacher batch, but we've got more from Red Bull still to come.
This is the 2008 Toro Rosso with which Sebastian Vettel won his first Formula One Grand Prix at the 2008 Italian Grand Prix in Monza, and that was one of those, I believe, world champions within their first year or two do something that is outstanding. All the world champions you can list did something incredible. We have Schumacher, who did the Jordan thing and then won the next year. You have Hamilton, who goes around the outside of Alonso in his first racing lap. And for me, Vettel's was that performance in 2008 in the Toro Rosso. He won in a Minardi. This was basically still a Minardi and still based out of Faenza, and just incredible.
You've seen a Minardi go up the hill. This is, as Jack says, what the team had grown into with the Red Bull money to make STR, Scuderia Toro Rosso. Alexander Seebold, the car's owner, is the man behind the wheel of it, and this car forever immortalised with that win by Sebastian Vettel. Alexander Seebold is not going to push it quite as hard as others, but even so, it is great to see this car. And we've been talking about so many in the context of Michael Schumacher. This is another one that was instrumental in shaping the career of another hugely successful German driver. The Toyota is on the hill as well. We talked about this earlier. Harold Fuchs' car, the ex-Jarno Trulli Timo Glock chassis from 2008 that Timo Glock had second place with in Hungary.
And I spoke about the wind tunnel in Cologne that Toyota built, and it's still used today by McLaren. The McLaren F1 team still use they're going to build their own wind tunnel shortly, but they still use the wind tunnel that created this car 11 years ago. That's how up to date they were in terms of the infrastructure they had.
Now, a new-ish series, only a year and a half old, is the Jaguar I-Pace trophy for effectively an electric one-make category that's given pretty rowdy racing on occasions.
Yes, it's touring car style, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay.
This is Jack Lambert at the wheel of it. The I-Pace won World Car of the Year, European Car of the Year, and obviously it's fully electric as it makes its way up the hill, and their final rounds of the season are next weekend in New York City. And yeah, it's going for it a bit actually. I-Pace e-trophy car, good to see as it comes up to the top of the hill. So there's the Jaguar I-Pace e-trophy, because as well as the Formula One cars, we have Sparks of Genius is the class, and that we're going to see a couple more electric cars. We're going to see some DevBots as well in a few moments. Across the line comes the Jaguar I-Pace e-trophy machine, and that's the run up the hill for the Jaguar, the first all-electric production car series. Now, what are we waiting for next down at the start line? A man with a pram.
Yeah, less electric, however. Listening to us on the stream in Australia, noted Australian journalist Phil Brannigan says, agreed about the JPS BMW. Oh, yeah, you see.
Agreed with me, presumably.
He wouldn't agree with me, that's for sure. Now, we also will have Robo Race to look forward to shortly. Let us, first of all, just whet your appetite.
Robo Race.
So Robo Race, we are expecting to come out soon. We're also expecting to see Extreme E as well in a couple of minutes, but we'll wait and see what happens there. We've also due to have the Mahindra go up, and I don't think I saw the Mahindra Formula E car. I saw that Nick Heidfeld was down in the assembly area. He was getting in the car, but unless I missed it come up the hill, which obviously is easy to do, earlier on when the red arrows were on, it was a little drowned out by the red arrows, wasn't it, probably? So the Mahindra may well have been up as we wait for the next batch of cars. After that, we're moving on to the Aston Martin celebration once these single-seaters and future cars are done, which is going to be, that was quite cool yesterday. If you weren't here yesterday, the Aston Martin celebration was really nice, especially the moment there in front of the house. It's going to be really, really good. So while we were watching the Red Arrows, this was some of the action that we saw out on the circuit, starting with the Michael Schumacher display. That's the car he first won a race in 1992 in Spa, Belgium.
A year on from the debut. Then you've got Tommy Dreeland's 1982 Williams, the sort of car that Keke Rosberg took to the World Championship that year with just the one win. You had Jackie Oliver in the BRM, Pedro Rodriguez BRM P153, and lots of Ferraris to drool over to.
Yes, this was the 1995 Ferrari that Schumacher never raced but had his first test in. And then this was actual Emerson Fittipaldi driving his actual Lotus 72E. Then we had a Minardi out there with a Lamborghini engine that was squealing and screaming. Gianni Morbidelli would have raced that in period. Then we had Patrick Friesacker out in the Red Bull doing some donuts too. The full range of the early Grand Prix through Monaco greats and all the way to contemporary Formula One cars. There was Karun Chandok in the car that Piers Courage raced for Frank Williams. We had a 2012 Renault out there on circuit as well. Zhu driving that one up the hill. Lee Mole out in the Lotus.
Oh, isn't that just beautiful? That's another of those timeless Formula One shapes.
Yeah. I think I prefer the 72E, if I'm honest.
You can be honest.
Oh, good.
We'll start a debate, which is nicer, the 79 or the 72. The 1997 Williams, having almost its first public outing for, gosh, decades, the Jacques Villeneuve championship winning car. And then you had Esteban Ocon doing his run up the hill in the Mercedes. And you can see how the shapes have evolved, haven't you, with the shark fin, with all the little appendages, front and rear, to try and help with the aero. But the Mercedes, and then the Brawn, Anthony Davidson at the wheel of it, with that oh-so-distinctive colour scheme.
I just love it. Love the Brawn. And then we had the 2008 Toro Rosso as well, and the 2008 Toyota 2 in the hands of Harold Fuchs. And the Toro Rosso taking the checker flag, as Sebastian Vettel did 11 years ago. The Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy machine came up the hill ahead of their final rounds of the season this weekend. And those were the cars that went up. So we're still sort of waiting on Robo Race.
Just a quick word about something happening later on today, because at 6 p.m. There is going to be the Oliver Solberg film, Born to Drive. It's going to be shown in the Arena at 6 o'clock. It will include a Q&A with Petter and Oliver Solberg, and it's the UK premiere of the film. So 6 o'clock tonight.